Well, it's been a while since I've been here. I know it's been a trying month, but we back. 6HM production. I'm going to kick it off with a couple uncomfortable conversations. So, we got Shannon Sharpe. Y'all know. We got Shedeur Sanders and Kevin Gates. So just a couple of things we're going to talk about after a few words from our sponsors and partners.
I'm excited to talk more about my background.
Also worked in so many places of media, which you will find out more. Two friends who like wrestling that talk about wrestling to now let's start a podcast. And
grassroots style, the way me and Brian have done it, every opportunity is an opportunity.
Kind of makes me want to step my game up a little bit more just because the space is so oversaturated. Anyone can start a podcast.
I live in New York City, so there's, opportunity everywhere in New York. Like, everyone's doing something. You go to a bar for happy hour, the bartender has a business.
And you apply that same strategy to network. You being very intentional. Find your why. What's the reason? Then do it.
Podcasting allowed me to break out of my comfort zone, to break out of my shell.
This is 6HM Productions.
Before we get started with today's show, I just want to remind you that you can save 10% on your order with Symphony of Balloons, a luxury balloon company that also offers a 360 camera. Just simply mention you heard about them on Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this episode of Break It Through Glass Ceilings with Uncomfortable Conversations. I'm your host, Brian H. Waters. And this show, of course, is brought to you by 6HM Production. Make sure you check out everything we have coming across, including the great work done by Queen PR and myself, as well as the great work done by her with Spotted, where WWE meets pop culture. Folks, it's been a month. But before I get into it, I'll talk about the personal stuff later. Let's talk about it. Right now, what's trending? The biggest thing is Shannon Sharpe. Shannon Sharpe, folks, he was set to be signing a $100 million deal with a network, apparently, but not so fast. He's recently been sued for $50 million. He and a young lady who had wanted to remain as Jane Doe, but her identity has been revealed. Y'all know the story. In case you don't, basically Shannon Sharpe and her, is suing for sexual assault. He revealed some messages. There's some not so great audio, including him talking about, he would choke her. And he said they had a dominatrix, BDSM, all of that, like very aggressive type of relationship, aggressive consensual sexual relationship. And here's the thing with those, y'all may remember years ago, Kevin Hart had talked about safe words and he said, pineapples, and it was a big joke, but it's the truth. You watch, You sit back and there was the 50 Shades of Grey. And in 50 Shades of Grey, you see the guy, he's whipping the girl and then, he's going far and then she tells him stop and then she tells him continue. I don't know what the relationship was, but here's what I can say. Shannon Sharpe is in his mid-50s. This woman was 19. That's where I have a problem with. This is where the conversation turns uncomfortable, right? When you're talking about a grown man who is well in his 50s dealing with somebody who is 10 years younger than his daughter, that's a problem. I've said this on this platform, on professional wrestling platforms, that, there has to be an age limit. There are some women's wrestlers, let's be real. The women who love wrestling thirst over the men and women, and the men who love wrestling thirst over the women and men. And there are some ones that I just refuse to feel that way about, especially if it's somebody that I knew when they got into the business, they were younger, right? But, there's this thing like, oh, they old enough to be your daughter. They're young enough to be your daughter, whatever. That's where it gets sickening. And in this case, it's probably his grandchild, I know there's a thing where, they're adults, and for all the conversations out there, I've seen people say, well, maybe him and Tracy Ellis Ross should get together. She says she wouldn't date younger men. She says she wanted to date children or recently adults. And that's the thing. With guys like Shannon Sharpe, I've seen this, usually it's a manipulation type thing. The older women ain't going for that. And as much as Monique tried to tell him, as much as Cat Williams tried to tell him, sitting on his platform, he didn't pay attention. So I think it's very, very interesting. And I think it's sick. Now, I did see some audio from Matt Barnes where he talked about Shaq had some information that he could leak. And I was like, oof, which I think is nasty business. You know what I mean? I think it's nasty business anytime you do that, because he could take, now he said, Shaq shut it down, but once, I'm sorry, once you created that seed of doubt, that's it. But I think the biggest conversation right here is you see who individuals are. Now, I've worked with some old people who would say if there's grass on the field, play ball. Most disgusting thing I've seen. It's disgusting. You again, like, why would you want to be with somebody, even physically, right? It's just, it's everything ain't for you. Everything's not for you. If you go 20 years younger, that's already suspect. 10 years younger, okay, whatever. I remember when we was in high school, I should say post-high school, the rules are you don't mess with nobody. It was a statutory rape was a thing. So if they were, 4 years younger in certain places, right? There's the age of consent. So if they were 4 years younger, it was a no-no. So, but then even once there gotta be some sort of moral standards, And Shannon Sharpe, he just comes off as a dirty old man. We look at the way he said about making good. And I posted something about this with Shaq and Ice Spice, and the internet crushed me. Did you think I care? No. But the internet crushed me. Well, Ice Spice ain't even all that. Oh, why? I don't see the problem. If he's in 50s and 20s. No, it's disgusting, bro. It's absolutely disgusting. And it just goes to show you who people are. So I'm pretty sure when me and Quay PR return, we'll definitely talk more about this because we'll get a woman's perspective. But like I said, it's just disgusting. Moving on, Shedeur Sanders. Now, as of this recording, Friday afternoon, 12 p.m. Eastern time, Shedeur Sanders has not been drafted to a NFL team. Now, Shedeur is known for his confidence, right? And I watched how he treated my media colleagues, and I saw nothing but positive, right? Shout out to Karita Parks, who's out there on the ground working. She posted him, and there was a lot of positive engagement. And some of these athletes don't like talking to women, but no, it wasn't that way. And I fell asleep during the draft. Like I said, it's been a long week. It's been a long month, but I fell asleep during the draft. Shout out to Travis Hunter. We talked about him at the end of the year last year. He was drafted to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Big surprise. But seeing Shedeur not get drafted is very alarming. We're not going to act like this guy was not successful in college. But for some reason, even after the year of the black quarterback, right? Even after the year of the black quarterback, NFL franchises not picking him. People talked about the New York Giants. And I saw a lot of Giants fans upset saying, wow, they really refused to draft a black quarterback. The thing that's also upsetting about this is because this quarterback, now, as you go back into the further rounds deeper, you're losing money in the draft. Now, we know the NIL deals, and we know he's Deion Sanders' son. Shedeur Sanders isn't hurting for money. But it's still status. You come in as a number one draft pick, or I should say first round draft pick, you're the guy. You're the guy that they're looking forward to, the guy they're looking to depend to take this franchise. And he said he's a culture changer. So it's sad that the NFL is not happy with a positive black quarterback, somebody who has a discredit confidence with cockiness. But I guarantee you, there'll be some teams that regret it. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, tax season is upon us. Perhaps you missed the deadline. Well, I want to recommend Sophie's Tax Prep. You know, if you're looking for accounting and financial services, tax preparation services, or refund loan up to $7,000, this is the place you need to be. And guess what? You can handle this all virtually. Sophie's Tax Prep offers comprehensive tax preparation services to individuals and businesses and is currently accepting new clients. Reach out at 443-526-1360 or info@stpenterprises.com. Like I said, you can handle this all virtually. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to support this podcast by wearing a t-shirt, whether it's the one that says breaking through glass ceilings or the one that says no ceilings above success, simply go to foryourwear.com. Also, you can support some of your other favorite podcast and content creators, including Those Wrestling Girls, Seahawk, and the Wrestling Club. And you can support some of your favorite independent wrestlers, including Jay Bougie, Trisha Dora, Chaz the Don. Shoot, all the Pure Ignorance is on there. So go on foryourwear.com, go under personalities, you'll find Brian H. Waters, and buy a t-shirt. And remember, I'll give you a shout out on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, are you in the gym every week? Are you looking to kind of keep yourself cool while you work up a nasty sweat? Well, I got the best thing for you. Cooling bands, bandanas, cooling towels, and so much more. Go to Vertical Athletics, get your favorite team in MLS or MLB, or guess what? Now they have a custom option so you can upload your own logo and you can save 10% at checkout when you enter the code Brian H. Waters. Go to verticalathletics.com, use the code Brian H. Waters to save 10% on some of your best cooling gear. Jalen Hurts. So the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. I got my wish. Blackity black quarterback wins the Super Bowl finally. And somebody asked Jalen Hurts on the red carpet recently, would he be attending the White House? Now, I wish people stop asking that question. You're putting athletes in position. Oh, he just said, got it. And I think that's smart. It sucks because the thing that was supposed to be something that was prideful, you win the Super Bowl, you get a chance to go to the White House. But all of a sudden, that office is now like jaded. And we've gone to the part where if somebody accepts an invitation to the White House, we kind of look down on them, right? Because of the person who's in office, person who's so divisive. So it's really sad that you can't even accept a White House visit. It's like now, I mean, the only thing you really can accept freely is Disney World. I'm going to Disney World. That was the thing, right? Before, like I said, it didn't matter if it was Bush or Clinton. It's like, oh, you're going to the White House? This is a great thing. It's not so much that way anymore. And it's unfortunate, but, you know, shout out to Jalen Hurts. I'll put it like this. Whatever he decides to do, you earned it. So if he decides to go, he earned that right. If he decides not to, he earned that right as well. And I fully understand. I saw this thing. Shout out to Mariah C. Rose, Jalen Rose's daughter, does great content, who's for hotties. She talked about Kevin Gates. And I never heard of this guy. Like, his music is not for me. But I saw something that was very alarming. He talked about LeBron James's wife, Savannah James. Now, Savannah James doesn't bother anybody. All she does is be a faithful wife to her husband and take care of her children and does her work, her entrepreneurial work. Well, he's going to say he wouldn't change places with LeBron James because he doesn't like the way Savannah looks at him and likes the way white women look at LeBron better. It's just sick. Let's keep players' wives' names out your mouths. And it's sad that, you know, people just say stuff just to go viral. And like I said, I'm talking about it, but that's the message. Keep players' names, wives out of your mouths. It's just sickening. So, oh man, I don't know. You know, these, like I said, there's always room for an uncomfortable conversation because people just go to these keep doing dumb shit. Moving on, before we get out of here, Los Angeles Lakers in the playoffs. I said I'm not going to be attached to my teams. The Orioles started the season off horrible. The Lakers are where they at. They're in the playoffs. They got a chance to, the series is tied at 1. They play on this Friday night. But I'm trying not to. But, it's going to be kind of hard if they find their way to the Western Conference Finals not to root for them. But we shall see. Shout out to Nico Harrison, though, the general manager of the Dallas Mavericks, who said he knew Luka had the fans love Luka, but he didn't know he loved him that much. I'm like, duh. Everybody's calling the second coming of Dirk. Everybody, like, Luka was, like I said, the night it happened, as a Laker fan, I'm like, yes, we got Luka, but wait, we're getting rid of Anthony Davis. And I know I've been hard on Anthony Davis, but do I really want him to go yet? Because they're playing kind of good. But the season has paid off. So thank you, AD, for the championship. But I think Luka's the better player. He's younger. He's the better player to take us further into, as far as the franchise is moving. Damn, I said us, but boy, I'm getting ready to get out of here, folks. This has been a rough week. I want to dedicate this show to my godmother, Laurel Plater, who passed away last Monday. And another lady who was the second mother to me, Linda Williams, when I was playing drums for Eddie Williams and Family Connection. She called me her other son. These ladies have been very influential in my life over the past 3 decades. And, it's tough. I went to Las Vegas last week, and, I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I was crying every single day because it's just hard, This is the toughest thing I've ever had to do, with Linda. It was tough, but, she had been a fighter for years, and they had given her time. They said the time was running out 2 years ago, and she lived longer than that. With Laurel, it was, for me, it was unexpected because I didn't realize, how sick she was, because she was always a fighter, always cracking jokes. And, I was able to see her the day before, less than, about 13 hours before. And we've just had a good time, I should say this. We had, I was able to crack a joke or, say a couple things. She said some things, made me smile. And I was able to tell her I loved her. But what was so difficult was just, not having, like, my mother's best friend, right? She was somebody who would pick up, always call, Brian. And, we would crack a few jokes. So I appreciate all the love. The Black wrestler community gave me so much love last week, and just so many hugs. And I'll never, ever forget that. And, huge shout out to my lady, Queen PR, who was right there alongside me and just making sure that I was okay. But, folks, that's just a bigger reminder to please not allow anyone to place a ceiling above your success. So long, everyone. Are you a podcaster who is looking to share clips from your show in the simplest way possible? Well, I have the best solution, and that's Opus Clip. Opus Clip allows you to take the link to your show, upload it, and then they will clip off some of the best moments. And it allows you to edit it, change the captions, change the colors, and they also give you a viral score so you know which clip can potentially generate more buzz for your show. So, if you're looking to do that, click the link in the bio, sign up for Opus Clip, and go viral with some of the best content from your show.